Hey everyone, and welcome as we get ourselves ready for Hollywood number 33 of the season. This week's show is all about the up and coming talent coming out of the GXCC gate. Yes, these guys will be racing on a couple of tours around the country as well, but this is where we're shining a light on them. Remember, the Pro-Am categories is the feeder category, or are the feeder categories at GXCC Racing. This is where we get the biggest entries. Some of these guys are going out on gates almost 50 riders deep, so it is hard racing the whole way through. They go on the same route that all of the pro category races go out on, and more often than not, they are racing in dust all day long on a 3-hour racing format. These are the stars on the men's and women's gates of the Pro-Am categories of the GXCCs. This will be our last wrap-up video before we get ready to go forward into racing full-time again and line up on the second racing weekend of September out in Delmas. For now, these are the guys and girls running inside the top 5 on the Pro-Am gate. This GXCC racing action powered by Dunlop is brought to you by SPX Logistics, Dunlop, RME Bearings and Transmission, and driven by Bikers Warehouse. The support class, we're going to be in for a treat in 2021 as we arrived at a couple of new venues on the calendar, and as always, the support class giving us our best gates and the biggest numbers. They really are the strong gates of the GXCC Tour, covering all of the OR1 Pro-Ams and, for this season, the Pro-Am ladies as well. They had a good run last year for the Pro-Am ladies, and we're expected to see new names and possibly new champions across all the categories. Remember, the support classes are our feeders going up into the pro gates. They would also be rocking out on the new tracks. Rustenburg opening up our racing account, giving us well over 450 riders on the queue. Then Moddy Molly, Heidelberg and Ventersdorp. For the Pro-Am ladies, we saw a ton of new riders at the opening round. They all went out the gate with the pros, but would be scored in their own category for the race and, of course, the championship as a standalone. We saw some new names coming in, a couple of regular flavors, and a couple of riders that will be coming in and out of the championship, crossing over from enduro as well as motocross. Thane Tonsing came into the opening round as the standout favorite and took the win, but was a no-show for rounds 2, 3 and 4. Lindy Barnard also had a problem at round number 1, but then at round number 2, Moddy Molly and Heidelberg walked away with a handful of number 2 spots. That set her up nicely. Danelle Dalport, a baptism of fire at Rustenburg at her first ever event. Not just first GXCC, but her first ever event. She still walked away with a number 4 ride, then started improving on the season with a handful of third places at Moddy Molly and Heidelberg, and her best result to date with a second place at Ventersdorp. The new kid on the block for the CIT and Franchise Co. squad was looking in good shape, and she'll be improving at the second half of the tour. Shelley Tyler walking away with a bunch of second places. 2 spot at Rustenburg, Moddy Molly and Heidelberg, and then dropping down to 3rd at Ventersdorp. But she had done enough to land herself a sponsor as well by round number 3, getting picked up by 2-4 projects, and she would be riding under a little bit more of a support package towards the end of the season as well. Also looking for her first win on the GXCC Tour. Top of the charts was some more new blood coming out of the now bolstered CIT and Franchise Company squad. Shady Krobler walked away with 3rd at her first ever GXCC and first ever race. But since then, it's been the Shady Krobler show. Flags, 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 wins, wins, wins. Moddy Molly, Heidelberg and Ventersdorp were her triple treat, where she walked away with wins at each of the rounds and now stands way above the rest of the ladies on the tippy top step. She's definitely a star of the future, and remember, if she walks away with the championship this year in the Pro-Am ladies, she will be going up into the pro categories for 2022. Shady, a star of the future for sure. Top step for her, Shady Krobler on a 95, close to the perfect score. She beats out on Shelley Tyler, who with consistent form should be able to remain in the number 2 spot. She's just ahead of Dalport, Barnard, Tonsing and Fisser. But Shady Krobler, the star of the future right now, and heading towards the big number 1 plate come the end of the season and the championship. The OR3 Pro-Ams at the opening round gave us well over 40 riders on the gate, so it was going to be wild, it was going to be busy, and we were going to see new champions, as the reigning champions had made the move up into the pro categories, leaving the gate and the top seats wide open. Thorne Blake, who's been climbing the ladder nicely coming out of the junior ranks and now finding a seat at the table in the 250 category, riding out of the massive Vans Racing Husqvarna squad from Middelburg. A 9th place, so inside of single digits at the opening round. Then a bogey event at the Modi Molly ride. That was a tough one for a lot of riders, getting stuck in the dust, and navigation was a big issue as they were blinded going into the corners. 7th place, a nice bounce back on the high-speed track that was Heidelberg, and then a standout ride, 6th place in and on the box at Ventersdorp. Andre Barwise was one of the championship riders in last season's events, coming off many seasons of racing on Yamahas. He's now switched across and onto different machinery. Seems to chop and change as the terrain suits. He opened up his account with a 3rd place. It was a no score at Modi Molly, then a 15th, a tough ride, and definitely mechanical issues hampering his charge at Heidelberg. He bounced back with a 1st place, an incredible ride, and his first ever GXCC win at Ventersdorp. They were chasing down, though, on the top 3. Jannes Jansen in great form once again. Strong rides last year, but now definitely has polished his blade. Looks very tasty as a threat for the championship at every single round and at every single race. 5th place, a first ever win at Modi Molly. Then a 3rd place and a 4th sets him up nicely to stay inside of number 3 in points, but nothing's decided yet, as we still have half a season of racing yet. But Jannes Jansen is definitely one of the stars to watch. Stefan Smit trying to be the top Yamaha rider, and no doubt will be moving up into the pro categories for 2022. His style, his race and his approach show that he belongs in the big show. A season opening win at round number 1 at Rustenburg. Didn't drop too far from the page at round number 2. A tough event for many riders out at Modi Molly. Then a handful of number 2 spots, Heidelberg and Ventersdorp, backing that up and getting himself into 2nd place on points. Very well positioned to now go forward and take over the championship points lead as we head into round number 5 at Dalmas, a track that was good to him at the end of last season as well. They're all chasing down on Mudman. Miguel Magado has come out of close to nowhere on no one's radar in 2019 or 2020, but with a teammate like Devon Smith, his good buddy, it's definitely showing that his style and speed has rubbed off. 2nd place at the opener, 2nd place at Modi Molly, his first big win going at Heidelberg at the big fast one, where he certainly showed what he can do on the high-speed terrain, and he backed that up as well with a 3rd place at the testing Ventersdorp event. Mudman, unfortunately, in the in-between break, has emigrated across to Australia, so we've lost one of our stars, but we wish him and his family the best of luck as we move forward into the second half of the tour, and they eyeball a new life in Oz. Magado then sits on top, but that'll change as we roll into round number 5. Smitty, Jansen, Barwise and Blake inside the top 5, with Van Heerden, Alexander, Duplessis, Stratum and Pienaar wants to watch out. This table will tally and change at the next event. OR2's up next, and as we said in the pro category show a couple of weeks back, the top 2 did make the move up, leaving the gate wide open for some new blood. And, of course, this is the gate where Megan Yonker, our reigning GXCC Pro Ladies Champion, decided to enter for the 2021 tour. New blood, new entries, and new riding styles as well. Saw some new guys starting to climb the ladder. Gavin Young started his campaign on one of the older Suzukis running out there, even with one of the number board tanks as an extender. 13th at Rustenburg, but a quick improvement at Modi Molly to inside of single digits with a number 9 spot. 13th at the high-speed track that was Heidelberg. Obviously, he's still getting used to his Yamaha machine, and then a massive improvement to 4th place at Ventersdorp. Stoffelberger was up the road from him, sitting in 4th place. In fact, tied on points with Nathan Godrich. These are the numbers that came in for Stoffelberger, a 0 at round number 1, but he quickly started improving with a 4th and a 9th. Backed that up with another 0 though. On paper, if Stoffelberger had been entering all of the events and bringing it home to the finish, he could well be sitting inside the top 3 or 2. If Berger is a show-up for the second half of the tour, he is going to be climbing up the ladder. Himself and Godrich will be pinned wide open. Godrich's pace definitely tells you that he should be running well inside of the top 5 at every single event. He was our reigning champion for the OR3 Pro-Ams last year, and he moved up to the bigger bike this time around. A 5th, a 5th, a 4th, and then a 0. But if you throw that 0 out of the way, he'll be sitting well inside of the top 3. Watch out for Godrich in the second half of the season. Matty Sneeman is the picture of consistency, and his speed and approach is great and well suited to the GXCC Tour events and format. A number 2 spot at the opening round, a 6th place, so still on the points and still in the box at Modi Molly. Back that up with another number 2 spot, so he loves the high-speed sections. That was a good result coming out of Heidelberg, but then a 0 at Ventersdorp shows that he has got some chinks in the armor. Getting picked up in the off-season by Rubine Racing, Vernon Nordia is on the 250 Smoker. Loves that bike, can get everything out of it that he needs on the high speed and the tech, and his numbers tell the story. A finish at every single round. 3rd, 2nd, 5th, and 2nd. One place to go from there, and that is the win. Vernon Nordia still looking for his first ever GXCC number 1. He's got some tough competition though. This guy is good off the gate, good on the track, and he's slinging together a very tasty looking championship when you start adding up all the numbers. A win straight out of the box on number 1. That was Rustenburg. 7th place at Modi Molly, but we'll throw that one away because that was his worst result of the season. Since then, it has been Brad Burrell hammering the nail at Heidelberg and Ventersdorp. He is standing out way on top in championship points, and if he keeps on going this way, he is going to be your 2021 champion coming out of the OR2 Pro-Ams. If he does that, he's going to be going full pro into 2022. Right now, Burrell on the money. Confirmation of Burrell's numbers. It's not a perfect 100, but it's not far off. 9 points ahead of Nordia. Sneeman way off in 3rd place. So right now, looking like a 2-horse race. Godrich and Berger down there in 4th, shared on points ahead of Young. Kutzer, Elaine de Toy inside the top 7, sharing it with Hennings. And then Megan Jonker coming back from injuries. Let's see what she can do in the second half of the tour ahead of Linky Lutz and Leon Goos. OR1 Big Banger Pro-Ams. On the lineup, always going to be the biggest gate. At the opening round, we saw record numbers going well over 40 as they headed out into the brand new red-hot racing venue that was Rustenburg. Dwayne Clausen was strong off the gate though, walking away with the first round win. Very, very confident in his machinery, stuck with the bike that he was on for the 2020 championship that saw him also running rock solid numbers. You can always put money on a top 3 coming out of Clausen. A 1st, a 5th, but a couple of zeros see him down there in 5th place. That's why he should have to push hard, and maybe he can climb the ladder coming out of almost nowhere. Marius Lombard is up the road, riding out of the EMD QCon squad. He's got some good backing there and has started to deliver some tasty rides. Definitely getting more confident as the season goes on. An 8th, a 4th, a 7th, and then a 0 coming out of Ventersdorp, choosing not to line up for that last one. That's going to hurt him in his championship chase though. Hottest Fenter sitting in 3rd place. It was a dismal, rough start to the season. 18th place shows that there were mechanicals coming out of the Rustenburg event, but since then it's been single digits. Modi Molly, a solid number 6. Then Heidelberg, a 4th place, sees that he is climbing the ladder. 8th place shows that he's got consistency and form. Hottest Fenter remains inside of a top 3 for now. Fenter will be chasing up the road to try and get on the back wheel of the 2 pinners in the championship. Dennis van der Merwe sits in 2nd place, never off the podium. All scores counted, all rounds entered, all flags taken. A 4th place at Rustenburg showed that he'd been doing his homework in the off-season. 3rd place showed he was building in form, speed and confidence at Modi Molly. Another 3rd place out of the superhighway that was Heidelberg. And then a top of the charts, 2nd place. That's his best ever finish in the season so far. He was a top 3 runner last year, and he's now starting to show his form and speed and aggression once again with that 2nd place coming out of Ventersdorp. He sits a very creditable, solid and close number 2 spot in the championship. as we head to round number 5 in Delmas. It's all eyes, though, on the Rooster. Last season, at the second half of the tour, when we came out of lockdown, the Rooster had switched across from the 300 to the 500, gelled well with it last year. But this year, he is owning that machine. A diminutive stature, but plenty of bravery, and he puts in the time between the races as well. A third, a second, and then a win at Ventersdorp. He is the guy to beat. He is running the numbers in the championship. And he's got that confidence as well, with a lot of crew behind him, making sure that he's doing what he has to do to bring it home every single time. Consistency on the laps as well shows that he's getting it out there and getting clear air. Good gates, but not always a whole shot. But he's a charger, and he never backs it off. Rudy Vieira, the Rooster, is the man on top of the charts as we head to the second half of the season in the OR1 Pro-Am Big Bangers. Confirmation of the Rooster on top. 9 points ahead of Van der Merwe, so Van der Merwe is going to keep him very honest. But a huge gap down to 3rd, 4th and 5th, where we see Fenter, Lombard and Klassen separated by just 8 points. They're ahead of Gregory Smith, Nienaber, Van der Westhuizen and Campbell. But at the top, it's Rudy the Rooster Vieira, trying to lock down his first ever GXCC number 1 plate. That's it for our big wrap-up as we now get ourselves ready for the official start of the second half of the season. Round number 5 of the GXCC Tour in Delmas in just 1 week's time. This GXCC racing action powered by Dunlop was brought to you by SPX Logistics, Dunlop, RME, bearings and transmission, and driven by the Bikers Warehouse. So that draws a line under all of our wrap-up. We've had 4 rounds of GXCC racing. Those are all the boys and girls on the juniors, quads, pros and Pro-Am gates that are chasing the cheese, trying to nail down either their first or second championship on the bounce. There's not too many repeat champions, I'll tell you that, coming out of last year with a lot of chopping and changing on the gates. But now it's going to get serious as we awaken the second half of the 2021 championship and get ready for round number 5 out at Delmas. The track is no doubt going to be an absolute perler. We're expecting more information to come from Vian and his crew, and we're trying desperately to get out there to give you a little bit of a look and feel. But what I can tell you is the mud from last year is gone. We are going to change up the game as well. Vian will no doubt be sending us down some slower routes as well to try and keep the dust down. It's going to be a safe race. It's going to be a banger race as always. The juniors and the quads will go out in the morning session and the pros out in the afternoon. We can't wait to see you guys out there on the line. Keep dialed in. We will be bringing you a couple of extra stories as well going forward closer to the time with a little bit of chopping and changing. It's silly season, remember, where a couple of guys are inking deals and getting onto new wagons, new kits, new boot sponsors, and sometimes a little bit of cha-ching as well. Keep tuned and we'll keep bringing you all the news and info. Laters.